All right, Mr. Lehman, we're going to go ahead and get started. Can you hear me?
I can hear you right now very well. Thank you.
Good. I'll use my teacher voice when I talk. All right.
Into the mics. Yeah.
The time is 7 o'clock and it is Wednesday, June 26th. I call this meeting to order. Excuse me. We have a public hearing. There we go. Mr. Miller's in the house.
I'm gonna go slowly here so we can give him some time to get there. I think this is what everybody's come to the meeting for, the exciting second edition of the budget. So we're going to talk about the adopted budget today. We talked about the proposed budget last week. And this is the second part of it. Honestly, it's mostly going to be talking about the budget that the state passed, because once they did that, the budgets we're going through, we're kind of going through the motion just for compliance. And so we'll talk about the changes that the state had on the budget that they did. So we had, on the June 12th meeting, we did the proposed budget. And then the reason, so this one has not changed, the adopted budget has not changed, because by statute, the adopted budget cannot exceed the proposed budget. And so there were some changes that the legislature brought in, that the legislature passed in regards to the funding amounts. We can't actually adjust the budget for those this time, so we'll do a revision in September, and I'll get to that later on. But we do have a state budget now, so that is very exciting. I think the budget came out right after the meeting last time, and then they passed it shortly after that. And like I said, statute says we can't exceed it, and there are some things that would increase the budget limit, so we're just, for compliance sake, going ahead and passing this one so we can say we have an adopted budget, and then we'll revise it again in September. That September revision is allowed when the Auditor General has to issue new revised budget forms, and so that they did have to do that because the budget was so late in the fiscal year. So I'm going to go over some formula changes that the legislature passed in regards to our funding. So base level increase, this was included in the budgets in the proposed budget, because that's the 2% is essentially required by statute. It's 2% or inflation, whichever is less. So I put the 2% in there for that increase to the base level to $5,000 or $5,013, which is kind of nice, right on the nose. No pennies or anything. And then we had some more formula changes, and these are a little different, a little more complicated. So the DAA, District Additional Assistance, we can put that in capital or M&O. So it had a 2% increase that's going to go into the base, and we want funds in the base because then it'll grow, it'll stay there, and it'll have that compound interest as they add, a 2% increase next year, for example. So we want that. But they also did one-time funding, and this, my understanding, based on reading the information about it, was the one-time funding was really supposed to be permanent, but it's going to be essentially a cut next year. So that's kind of how they had some savings and said, all right, we're going to cut this next fiscal year. You're only going to get it for a year. And so there was $23 million in DAA, and then $37 million in the free and reduced paid lunch weight, which is also called the poverty weight. And so it's allocated on a per pupil basis on the current year. So we don't actually know exactly how much each district will get, because we don't know how many students they're going to be statewide. We don't know how many students exactly we're going to get. We'll get a ratio based on how many students there are in the state and how many we have. Using past data, I'm estimating that about 200,000 for DAA, and then about 315,000 for the free and reduced weight. But that's going to be a moving target as the year goes on. One thing I do want to mention, though, on that free and reduced weight, that is any student who qualifies for free and reduced, which when we went to the district-wide CEP where all the students eat free, that means all those students qualify for that weight. So actually, that's a fairly big deal for us because now it's additional M&O funding that we're getting because they qualify for that. So that was not necessarily the purpose of going into the CEP, but it is a nice benefit that they all qualify for that. So regardless of their actual family income, if they're going to a CEP school, they would qualify in that weight. But again, these are one time. So think of it as we're getting an extra $500,000 next year, unless the legislature changes its mind, we would have essentially a $500,000 cut to those amounts. Some other legislative changes or actions, I guess. The aggregate expenditure limit, that's been an ongoing thing for the last few years. They preemptively overrode it for this coming fiscal year because we will, it will be exceeded. Really no question about it. So we don't have to be worried about it come spring or come January. It's already taken care of for the year. But it's just a one-year thing. So until there's a constitutional change, it's going to be an annual discussion every year. All right. So now that we actually have the budget from the state, we can do another revision before September 15th. I'd probably wait until a little closer to September 15th than not, because if we could use actual figures, actual enrollment figures, it would be more accurate. So if we can, wait until maybe mid to late August, maybe we'll have to look at the board schedule, maybe the last meeting in August, or depending on when that first meeting in September is. I would look at that, because that way, if we have more enrollment data, it can be a more accurate budget to know what we're actually going to be getting for that. Because otherwise, we might have to revise in December. If your budget decreases by more than 1%, you're required to do if your budget formula decreases by more than 1%, you're required to do a revision in December. And that decrease is generally where, all right, you estimate your enrollment at the beginning of the year, and then it actually turns out it went down, 1.5%. That would reduce your budget by 1.5%, and that would require a revision. So if we can get some numbers in there, we could do it so we wouldn't have to do a December revision. We then would revise in May. Everyone revises in May because you already have the 100-day data at that point. And so we'll do that. So really, I think what I would like to do is go through the budget more in detail with real numbers in August or September, and we can go through that. For what we had here, it was the best guess based on what the legislature had given us, which I think it'd still be pretty close, but it wasn't going to be accurate. And I think the revision that we will do later on will be accurate for what we have. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks, Eric. Question for you, since we're going into the new year pretty soon here, are our families going to need to fill out the FRPL form again for qualification? Or because it's been granted to all of our schools and all of our students for breakfast and lunch, will we skip this year? Or will we be going after that again?
Yes and no. So for the getting the free meals, no. They can go in and do that. I'm reluctant to say that because there is funding that we can get. If we can have them fill out a form related to more of the grant funding, that's what we're going to need to fill them out. So they're going to get the meals either way. But we need to actually have them fill out some forms to prove the actual demographics that we have. So they're still going to be asked to fill something out because it's going to help the school get other funding in grants, but they're not going to have to do it for the meals. So that's kind of the challenge. In the past, it was, okay, I have to fill this out so my child can get a free meal. So there was an incentive to do that, and then it was easier. We got a better response on getting those forms back. Now with everyone free, we're working on kind of being proactive to make sure that we're going out and getting these forms, because if we have a low response, it'll actually hurt our grant funding.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that said, on back to school night, I know that we're going to be helping our parents to become qualified to be chaperones in a much easier way this year and be there for them to notarize and do things like that. I know that chasing after these forms every year is really hard, and we know so many of our families need it and we need their help to qualify for it. Is it something that we can look at to have maybe a table that says, fill out here. I know it means another body, but I'm welcome to volunteer as that body to make sure that all of our kids who need what they need get it.
Yep, Cindy Denton and her team actually are working on it, so I'm going to turn over to Cindy and let her answer that one for you.
Certainly, Eric, thank you. We've talked about the best way to go about this. And so what we're going to do as a first pass on this is we've talked to Janae in Nutrition Services, and we're also able to use direct certification data that comes through families that get assistance through the government. So what we're going to do is start with doing downloads of that. We cannot do that until July 1st. So we're going to start to do downloads of that, determine which families qualify under the direct certification. That will leave us with a subset of people that need to fill out the CEP form. We talked about doing that at Meet the Teacher, but we were somewhat hesitant because it involves income information, and we just were not comfortable having that income information floating around. So after chatting about it and what's the best process, Brittany and I have spoken about this as well. We'll be doing, we've gotten permission from our E-rate consultant to convert the CEP form to something electronic that we can push out to families. We'll do that in a couple passes to try to get them to do that, fill it out very quickly via, text or email. The families that then don't respond to that, we are geared up to have the paper version of the form available during parent-teacher conferences. Will get us in under the window of time to be able to qualify for that. So we've tried to think through all the different mechanisms to do that. Direct certification, Janae will continue to run that monthly so we can pull in direct certification as families qualify for that. So I feel pretty confident that we've got a good plan that incrementally will pull families in with that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Eric.
Jim, did you have anything?
No, Mr. President,
All right.
I'm fine.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, that is the close of the public hearing on the proposed annual budget. Moving on to 301, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. 302, approval of tonight's agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second?
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 There it is. So moved. Item 401, approval modification of the minutes from the June 12th governing board meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 12th board meeting.
Jim, you'll have to second. I have to abstain.
Second.
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item 402, approval modification of the minutes from the June 12th executive session.
Motion to approve the minutes from the June 12th executive session.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 501, approval of tonight's consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second?
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Very good. As part of tonight's consent agenda, I wanted to thank Landing's Credit Union, Homes for Heroes, Arizona State University, and the Tempe Elementary Education Association for their donations, and Brittany.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I will be the substitute to Mr. McGinney this evening to introduce some amazing new employees that we just welcomed to the district. I'd like to highlight Nicole Atencio to the position of Assistant Principal for Fees College Preparatory Middle School, and I'd like to share a little bit more about her background. Nicole earned a bachelor's in science education from the University of New Mexico and a master's in educational leadership and policy from the University of Texas at Arlington. Nicole brings a background in education, serving in such roles as middle school teacher, STEM coordinator, and most recently a principal at Kirtland Middle School in New Mexico. Those who know Nicole have shared that she possesses a rare combination of visionary leadership and practical wisdom. She is determined and decisive, both qualities that have been instrumental in her success. Nicole is an exceptional mentor and instructional leader. She is deeply committed to intentional practice and maintaining a steadfast focus on student learning outcomes. Nicole is thrilled to begin her future with Tempe Elementary School District, so I'd like to welcome her, say congratulations, and you can join us at the podium to say a few words if you'd like, Nicole.
Good evening. I'm super excited to join the Tempe Elementary School District, and I'm honored to be working at Fees College Preparatory Middle School. I gotta make sure I'm saying that correctly. That's a mouthful. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to get to work. Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to highlight another individual you approved on the personnel summary this evening. Tonight you approved Brittany Young to the position of assistant principal for Shamley School, and I'd like to share a little bit about her background as well. Brittany earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Arizona State University and a master's in educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. Brittany brings a background in education, serving as an elementary and middle school teacher for 9 years, and most recently as a school improvement coach with Mesa Public Schools. Those who know her have shared that Brittany is a rare individual who can be passionate about her career while also being objective and professional. Brittany is compassionate and highly intelligent. She has proven her ability to identify and analyze problems and give recommendations for positive outcomes. Brittany is excited to bring her skills in coaching to improve Tempe Elementary School District. So from one Brittany to another, congratulations. You're welcome to join us at the podium and introduce yourself and your family and friends.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm so humbled to be standing here. I know that being a part of the Tempe School District is something you earn over time. It's not something you're given just through a contract, and I'm so honored to be a part of that. I'm so excited to bring my passion for supporting teachers and our students, making sure our community feels involved and supported, and pair that with Principal Sternberg's amazing drive and dedication. I thought I was here with just 3 members of my immediate family and had a busload of some of the most amazing colleagues ever support me as well, and I wouldn't be here without them, and so I'm looking forward to building those relationships in Tempe as well. Thank you, guys.
Mr. President, that concludes my introductions for this evening. Thank you.
And this is the part where I say you are welcome to stay for the rest of this meeting, but you're also welcome to leave if you wish. All right, 6:01, open call to the public. There are no blue cards. So we're moving straight on to 7:01. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of an educational services agreement between Tempe Elementary School District and Maricopa County Community College District for Gateway Community College.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the education services agreement between Tempe Elementary and MCC CD and for Gateway Community College.
Second.
I have a motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item 702, discussion and first review proposed new governing board policy GCCB, professional/support staff parental leave. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you don't mind, Eric, I'd like to ask, because I'm extremely excited about this. It's something that we have had, and you have been a proponent of supporting for a while. What, if you could tell the public, what was our policy before in difference to now what it is? I think it's very important for especially those who are coming into this profession, into Tempe Elementary, who want to also be able to have families and be able to take care of them in their early childhood time. It's the most precious time ever. And so, Eric, if you could just give the public what we were and what we're doing to help take care of our families?
Sure. Mr. President, members of the board, so essentially right now, if there is a birth or adoption, and people need time off for that, they would use their general leave or vacation. So, for example, teachers earn 10 general leave days a year. So if you've been with the district for 5 years, at most, you would have 50 days. So 10 weeks. That's assuming you've been there for 5 years and never used a day of general leave in that time. With this policy, it would be similar to how bereavement leave works now, where it's not something that accumulates or earns, just when the event happens. So in this case, it would be a birth or adoption. You would have 20 additional days of paid leave that you would be able to use for that. So if an employee has a child and they have 10 days of regular general leave, this would add an additional 20 days. So that after those 10 days, they don't have to make a decision, oh man, it's been 2 weeks, but I either need to make a choice of coming back early because I need a paycheck or going unpaid. So it's just going to extend it an extra 20 days. So it's not a 12-week leave or anything like that, but the goal is to help them get a little bit extra so that they can have more time at home to make sure that they get everything set up in those early times when they have a brand new child. And so it'll help supplement that leave that they have.
And this is also extended to the spouses of our employees also, correct? Like not the spouses who don't work for us, but if they're a dad
Yes.
or have a dad pronoun,
It's just parental.
they will get this time off too, not just the mom.
Correct.
Okay. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, President Miller. So this is something that I've been so excited since we started discussing the possibility of this. I've done 3 maternity leaves or FMLA leaves and completely exhausted my days, and was the main breadwinner through all 3 of those kids, and it was incredibly challenging. So I've never understood why an industry that is contingent upon people having children, that we don't support our own employees in having children. It's never made sense to me. And I am so proud of Tempe Elementary for initiating it. I do believe this is one of the first in the state.
I am not aware of another district that has paid parental leave.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with this. The only request I have with the actual agreement, if I may say now, is under amount of paid parental leave, where the very first bullet point says an employee may take a maximum of 20 days. I would just like in parentheses for us to write the new number 20, since we have 12 as numbers all the way through. And when you're scanning policies really quickly, it helps to pop that out. And that's a lot of time and we all know how important that is to that infant as well. Adopted or birth, it's super important that they have that connection time. So I'm so thrilled doesn't even encompass what I feel about this. I'm honored to be part of this. So thank you.
Jim, do you have anything?
No, sir. Good policy.
I would echo that similar sentiment. This is a good policy, and frankly, yes, absolutely. And this is a first read, so there's nothing really to vote on. I do think popping out the amount of days, 20 days with parentheses makes sense. So I don't know. I think we just say that, and hopefully it happens for the second read. So that's how that works. So moving on, 703, second review. This is the thing we do vote on. Second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IJNDB, use of technology resources in instruction.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to the governing board policy IJNDB, use of technology resources in instruction.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on to 704, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the Assistant Director of Accounting position and the corresponding job description. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I would just like to ask Mr. Thompson if you wouldn't mind explaining, like we talked about before, the reason for this and in conjunction with 705, since they're go hand in hand.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
These are not necessarily new positions. We're going to essentially reconfigure the titles of them, because looking at what we have now, we've had people who are very experienced in these positions. They're on the supervisor level. And when they leave, and they have 25 plus years of experience, they're very experienced on that, but they're going to be leaving one day. And when they leave, it's going to be next to impossible to hire someone at the supervisor level and to be able to do the work that they are doing for that. And then the market out there, the role that they do essentially at every other district would be, if not assistant director, or director position. And so that it's kind of been mistitled for many years, but the people have been in it for many years as well. So looking forward, once they leave, it would be very difficult to hire anyone in there. So reconfiguring it to make it the assistant director was the purpose behind that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Thompson. You and I discussed that very understandable reasoning. I wanted to add something that I thought about later. I've noticed in other districts that often is done after the person who's been there for so long vacates the position for retirement or whatever reason. And I appreciate the forward thinking to honor the people who are in those positions, show that the industry has changed and that position has changed and needs to be at that level, and give it to them then when they've fully earned it, and make sure we're prepared going forward too. So thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
With that, if you don't mind, I will propose that we approve the Assistant Director of Accounting position and the corresponding job description.
Second?
We have a motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. 705, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the Assistant Director of Purchasing position and corresponding job description.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the position of Assistant Director of Purchasing, the position and the corresponding job description.
Second?
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 706, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a pro statement from the governing board in support of the special maintenance and operation budget override election. So I think we have some draft versions of. There they are. Jim, do you have access to this? Should I read it out loud for you?
Read it, please.
Absolutely. So the statement as we have it right now is, first paragraph, we are proud to live in a community that values and supports public education. Tempe Elementary School District voters have a long tradition of saying yes to authorizing continued funding, allowing us to provide exceptional educational opportunities for our children. We are extremely grateful to you, our voters and taxpayers, for your continued trust and support of our mission. Our maintenance and operations override funds are critical to the success of our students. They are used to maintain small class sizes in our elementary grades, provide general and instrumental music classes, gifted education, physical education, counseling services in every school, and additional support to increase academic success. We take our fiscal responsibility to our community very seriously. This budget will not, in bold, increase taxes or request new monies from taxpayers. It only asks that you reauthorize current funding to avoid cuts to programs and services that directly benefit students. We humbly ask for your continued support to fulfill our unwavering commitment to academic excellence and financial stability. Please help us continue our dedication to our children by voting yes on November 5th. And then it lists a bunch of names, one of which is not mine, but yes.
No, we're cracking it.
Yeah, so. It is November 5th.
Obviously, we'll need to change the board members down below. And the date is November 5th, correct? Or is it?
Yeah.
Yep. That was one of the things that I had marked. I am grateful for the community for extending this, and I do want to make it really clear that it is not going to have an increase to any of the community members. And we are leading, and I know that we're leading, especially in our music programs. We were all together at the Arizona School Board Association event in Flagstaff a few weeks ago, and all of my colleagues really appreciated the time that we had with other school districts. And it was often that people came up and said, how are you doing this? How do you guys have good instruments? How do you have good rooms? How do you have good teachers? And I said it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the community, and they support us and they love our public schools. So I look forward to being able to go out and talk to our voters about this and its importance. And I hopefully will get the support that we've had in the past in order to keep things going. Counseling is a big part of this. And we have a counselor in every single one of our schools, and they have support too. We'd love to give them more support, but we've done the most with what we have. And I'm grateful for that. I do have friends who are actually psychologists in other schools. And they have said to me that they're drowning in being able to help the children, and that they have spoken with our staff here that helps with social emotional learning and helps with counseling and helps with, we help our families as much as we can with the crisis as they may go through. And they commend us for being there, and especially with the help of our community with our Care 7 teams and HOPE and things like that. There's so much that's wrapped up into this, and to have the community support is necessary, and I'll be grateful for it. Thank you.
Jim, did you have anything?
No, I finally found it on and looking at it and just make sure the date is correct for the election and correct the names.
Sure.
And I thought there was a limitation on the number of words, and I assume we're within that. Is that correct?
It is a 200-word or less, or fewer, I should say, statement. And I suppose I didn't count it, but I imagine this is less, or if this is the exact statement that was used last time. So 183, that was the count. Excellent. So yeah, we're good to go.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the pro statement as written from the governing board, pro statement as amended with the new names in support of the special maintenance and operation budget override election.
Second?
We have a motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 707, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a pro statement from the governing board in support of the special district additional assistance override election.
Mr. President, do you mind reading it again? Because I do think it helps the public who doesn't
Sure,
have all of these
absolutely.
pieces of paper.
Absolutely. We are proud to live in a community that values and supports public education. Tempe Elementary School District voters have a long tradition of saying yes to authorizing continued funding, allowing us to provide exceptional educational opportunities for our children. We are extremely grateful to you, our voters and taxpayers, for your continued trust and support of our mission. Our district additional assistant budget override funds are critical to the success of our students. They are used to purchase capital items such as musical instruments, school-based technology, furniture and equipment for students, and information management and security systems district-wide. We take our fiscal responsibility to our community very seriously. This district additional assistant budget override will not, in bold, increase taxes or request new monies from taxpayers. It only asks for a continuation of the current tax, which will continue to provide for the capital needs of the district. We humbly ask for your continued support to fulfill our unwavering commitment to academic excellence and financial stability. Please help us continue our dedication to our children by voting yes on November 5th. Once again, the name's a little out of date.
If I could jump in here, Mr. President.
Sure.
So that is the draft from the last override in 2019. And so if you remember when we called for it, I discussed that capital override amount has been steady at that $5 million
Sure.
for 20 years. And so we adjusted it for inflation, so to increase it to the 7 million. So that one phrase in there about not asking for additional money, even though it is, still less purchasing power than it was 20 years ago. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that one to bring it up, and you guys can discuss everything you need for that, because I'm not sure it's exactly saying not asking for additional money per that, so.
So with that in mind, I mean, that whole third paragraph is kind of about not asking for additional money, and we are nominally asking for more money. So, suppose we either need to rework or entirely nix that entire paragraph. Other than we want to, indicate our commitment to fiscal responsibility for our community, which is the very first sentence. So, of that paragraph.
And if I could jump in one more additional time, there are corresponding resolutions in there. So I'm not sure we had it on the last item, but maybe on the approval to say approve the wording and corresponding resolutions, just to make sure we officially approve the resolutions as well that were attached to that board item.
I don't. What does that mean?
There are resolutions attached to that agenda item that discuss just essentially that we are approving the pro statement. It's more of the boilerplate resolution that has to be done from the legal side. So I would just say on the approval, I'd recommend saying the pro statement and corresponding resolutions.
And corresponding resolutions.
Yes.
Okay, as a function of making the motion.
Not
Yes.
in the writing of the.
Not in the writing of the thing, just make sure when you're making the
Yes.
motion to say, I make a motion for the statement and corresponding resolution.
Do we need to go back and do that for the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
So let's dial it back to 7:06. Thank you, Mr. Miller, or Mr. Thompson, sorry, looking at you.
there's two Erics,
Yes.
we're all out of here. So, did you hear that, Jim? We're going back to 7:06 to do it right this
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I can go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the pro statement as amended from the governing board in support of the special maintenance and operation budget override election and corresponding resolutions.
This is for the last one, correct? Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 There we go, nailed it, look at us. All right, back to 7:07. Yes.
Okay, so taking what Mr. Thompson said for paragraph 3, what if we strike the second sentence and amend the third sentence to say, we ask for continuation of the current tax? Would that be accurate? Which will continue to provide for the capital needs of the district?
Well, it would continue plus more.
Oh, yeah. So how about we ask for your continued support to provide the capital for the capital needs of the district?
I like that.
Yeah, so that third paragraph would read, we take our fiscal responsibility to our community very seriously. We ask for your continued support to provide for the capital needs of the district. We're just trying to save in type print.
There we go, okay. Allison?
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing that I did want to look at is our second paragraph. We've replaced our musical instruments already. I know that one of the things that we're really serious about is we're serious about safety and the improvements that we need to make on that with the change in times. So I would like to possibly, I don't want to not support all the programs that we're going to continue to support that have to do with our specials and extracurriculars, but school-based technology for sure. I mean, Darren will tell you that every day Apple doesn't give us any extra discount. I don't think any of our computer companies give us any extra discount, and we know what it's like just to go pay for our stuff when we need it, all the way down to headphones. So I would like to keep that in, furniture and equipment for students, definitely, and But I would like to make sure that we get something in here because I would like to, we as a board have already decided that we're going to concentrate on making sure that the safety of our schools is met to the best of our ability. And I know that this is a critical part of being able to do that.
So are you asking to remove the musical instruments?
I believe with the musical instruments, there's constantly a replenishing.
Okay.
What, are you trying to
I don't want to take it
highlight
out.
security?
Yeah, because we don't have that in there, and I know it's a big focus of what we're going to be doing.
At the very end, it says
Oh, security systems, just right, my bad.
Would you like to reorder it to put it
Yes,
first?
that would be better. That would make me feel better, because I want them to see that that's where, that's a great idea. Thank you, Charlotte. And are we
So-
missing anything in there from when we talked at the beginning of the year, the things that we really wanted to focus on? I just want to ask the board, I'm just trying to refresh and think.
I was going to ask the same question. I feel like we're missing something.
I do too.
Mr. President, board members, historically, the more we put in these statements, then we're kind of committed to actually spending it on one of those items as the needs change over the years. So I'd be careful about loading it up with additional things that, other than what we have right now.
It's good advice. So we can certainly just put security up front. Would we, okay, so we can jump that up front, and then would we just push everything kind of down and then end on furniture and equipment for students?
And then should we edit the musical instruments part to be like all-inclusive of our special programs in the arts and science that we have? Like, what would you call them? I mean, extracurricular, or would you call them specials, or would you call them, just so we're not specific?
Are you referring to like STEAM, like equipment? Is that what you're?
Well, because that would qualify Eric, right, in this too? Like, we would be able, this is that budget that helps support the special activities that we have in science, technology, arts, engineering, math.
Depending on what those items are, they would be the capital items. So the musical instruments, I think we did 1.5 million of the override last time was musical instruments. So we have replaced, I believe, every instrument in the district. And so there might be some smaller replacements, but the schedule would not necessarily require it until later on. Most of the expenses that the override, the capital override would cover is those classroom technologies, the Chromebooks, things like that. The safety, as you talked about as well, we would have some items there. And a lot of software, instructional software and whatnot would be there as well. The actual programs, if you're talking about, that's going to be more of the M&O override.
Okay.
That's the people and programs part of it. Yes, there could be some STEAM aspects to capital items, but the majority of it would probably be in the M&O.
So with that said, Mr. President, may I ask Jim, because Jim has had experience doing these several times. Jim, how do you feel about how it's stated right now? Do you think it's too wordy?
Let me bring it back up. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's too wordy, and generally speaking. But I think if we're going to take out the next to last paragraph, and I would suggest that, or at least that sentence, and I don't think it really gains us a lot if we put more substance into what we would spend the money on. It just opens us up to concerns when we don't, or haven't spent enough in one area versus another area. So that's the problem with, putting a big daisy chain of items on these statements. And there wouldn't be a statement if we weren't in support of all this stuff. So do we need to tell people in our community what we'd spend it on? Some of them need to know. But I'd make it very general. That's my opinion.
Well, right now, our second to last paragraph is just 2 sentences. We take our fiscal responsibility to our community very seriously. We ask for your continued support to provide for the capital needs of the district. Like
That's great.
I actually think we need to amend that last sentence, because if you read the very next one, we humbly ask for your continued support to fulfilling. So we could actually strike that very last one that I had suggested and just add the first sentence of paragraph 3 to the last paragraph.
to the last paragraph. Okay, there we go.
Good.
Got us. All right, just putting that down. So now we
I
can
guess my
third
only
paragraph.
question, and to Ms. Ewer's point, we'd like to be as transparent as possible to the public that this is how the money is going to be used. And since there has been an increased conversation about the board's commitment to STEM, and we already know the arts is something we want to continue to support, I'm wondering if, just in case, it would be nice to add, instead of musical instruments, just STEAM equipment, or spell it out, equipment, so then it gives us flexibility in how we utilize the capital funds, just in case.
That.
I like that.
Thanks. So
So
say
we
it?
would spell out STEAM just.
Well, yeah, because outside of the education world, they don't know
Sure.
what STEAM is.
That makes
So
sense.
I
So-
feel like we need to spell out the acronym.
Okay. And we would still put security systems up front.
Yeah.
And I would say, I think just we would do up front, and then I think it makes sense to put school-based technology next to it, just because it kind of flows one to the next. And then we can put STEAM instruments, spelled out STEAM, and then end on
Equipment.
STEAM equipment, excuse me, and then end on furniture and equipment
Yeah,
for students.
for Ms. McDaniel.
I mean, we lost a lot of words here in the third paragraph by
That's why we
eliminating it,
could
so
spell
we,
it
we,
back.
we definitely are, I think, are hanging under 200 words.
School-based technology, school or security systems.
Correct.
Yes,
Security systems, school-based technologies, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, equipment,
yep,
furniture and equipment for students,
district-wide.
and management, or were you done?
No, we still do information management.
But the school-based technology, that's like the second point. That's the one right after security systems.
Wordsmithing as a group is messy work. But must be done. Thank you, everyone.
I just want the final okay that we're under 200 really before we make a motion. That's really what I'm waiting on. As the person this has turned into, I don't want to come back to us saying that we didn't do it right, so.
The 200 doesn't include.
Correct. It's just the statement.
What's the word count?
It looks like we're, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. 195.
That's scoreboard people. All right.
Blasted acronym. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the pro statement as amended from the governing board in support of the special district additional assistance override election and corresponding resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. All righty. 801, board information.
Thank you, President Miller. I just want to second my colleagues of what they said at the last board meeting. Sometimes our day jobs get in the way of being able to do this, and it was the one meeting that I had to miss. But I was so grateful as I watched it that my colleagues ask all the questions. I was like, please ask this question, and Charlotte did, or Monica did, or Jim did, or Eric did. And to second something that Mrs. Windsor said about going up to the Arizona School Board Association retreat. One, we got to meet together for some serious good time on what we wanted this next year to look like and our future plans going for the next decade. And we had really good data, and I'd like to thank Dr. Driscoll for bringing that to the table. And we had some questions, and he's been getting back to us so that we can fine tune those things. The other thing is to see that I am so grateful to be a part of a board that works. We don't always agree on how we get there, but we always get there for the kids. And it was really evident, and all of us, I believe, were asked by someone of, what juice are you guys drinking? And the juice that we're drinking is respect. And our community respects us, we respect each other, and the people in this room, we respect everything that you do. So I'm hoping to keep that mojo going as we go into this next election. It's really important. And again, I wanted to thank you guys for holding down the fort, but having me in the background thinking she might ask this question, and I'm grateful that you did so that we could get to where we needed to be in my absence. And I didn't like not being here, but I'm grateful that you guys helped me keep my job and keep making sales so that I can continue to do this. Thanks, Mr. President.
Jim, do you have any board information?
Yes, I do. People in North Tempe contacted me about the possibility for the Healthy Communities Foundation from Sprouts, and they have a couple more weeks for grant applications. And they were thinking about Shamley School, and it's in 3 different categories: school gardens, growing healthy kids, and wellness across the lifespan. So I think they were looking at the gardens as one that was brought to our attention, or our community's attention up here from Mr. Singh. And so if somebody's interested in putting an application together by July 15th, there's a good possibility that we might get some money for the garden.
All right, with that, moving on to 9:01, announcements, upcoming events. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 at 11 a.m. The new staff orientation kickoff is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024 at 8 a.m. at McCamey Academy of International Studies. There will be an executive session Wednesday, July 17th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The back to school rally will be held Friday, July 19th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. at the Mullet Arena. Meet the Teacher will be held Monday, July 22nd, 2024 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for all K-5 and K-8 schools from 3 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for middle schools. The first day of school is Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. Item 10:01, meeting adjournment.
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second?
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. We are adjourned.